Unit 4, Period 4, Section 6. And another area of reform in the early 19th century, 1800s, is abolition. Abolition is a movement to abolish or do away with slavery. Here's a poster that was published back then, glorifying the idea of abolition and doing away with slavery. Leaders of the abolitionist movement included William Lloyd Garrison, pictured here. The uniqueness of William Lloyd Garrison, obviously, is that he was a white American who spoke out all over cities in the North against slavery, to the point that in one of his speeches, he was attacked by the spectators and beaten. A rope was tied to his foot, and he was dragged through the streets by a horse. One of his most famous quotes is, "I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch, and I will be heard." This illustrates the attitude of William Lloyd Garrison. William Lloyd Garrison published a newspaper across the North that was outlawed in the South, known as the Liberator. The reason why the Southerners hated him and hated this publication so bad is what Garrison was calling for was immediate emancipation. And that is that he felt like slavery was so bad and so unlawful that it needed to be ended yesterday. Another abolitionist was Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was an ex-slave. His owner's wife in the South had illegally taught him to read and write. And when Frederick Douglass escaped to the North, he was able to use this education working for William Lloyd Garrison, and then eventually breaking with Garrison and starting his own newspaper called the North Star. The difference between Garrison and Frederick Douglass is over the issue of emancipation. Where Garrison wanted slaves freed yesterday, Frederick Douglass understood the economic necessity that slaves were for Southerners and knew that it would be a long process that would have to include the changing of the Constitution. And so therefore he called for gradual emancipation. The third group of abolitionists are the Grimke sisters. The Grimke sisters were actually raised on a Southern plantation, which makes it even more surprising that they were both abolitionists, and the fact that they were willing to go and speak out not only for the freedom of African slaves in the South, but also for women's rights. They actually attended the Seneca Falls Convention in New York. This concludes Unit 4, Period 4, Section 6 over abolition.